Just like having the right information is necessary to make solid hiring and lending decisions, being engaged in our community is important. DataFax is proud to support the positives and be a presenting sponsor of the Spark.
State Systems is focused on protecting life and property. As a local, privately owned company, our foundation was built on providing all businesses with complete fire and security protection and infrastructure cabling. State Systems is proud to be a part of the Mid-South community and a presenting sponsor of the Spark.
Lipscomb & Pitts Insurance has been serving the Mid-South since 1954. We've always focused on supporting our community and believed in promoting the positives, encouraging engagement, and leading by example. Lipscomb & Pitts is proud to be a presenting sponsor of the Spark.
Additional funding for the Spark provided by Christian Brothers University and Power and Tell.
This month on The Spark, our theme is Crisis and Recovery. We'll learn more about a volunteer-powered, free, safe, and confidential lifeline for thousands of people here in the Mid-South. We'll discuss an organization providing help for adolescents and adults dealing with substance abuse problems and co-occurring mental health issues. And we'll explore a business performance company that's enhancing results for corporations and using its expertise to benefit nonprofits. Have you ever been excited by a new idea, inspired by watching someone lead by example? When we talk about creating change, we start by sharing the stories of everyday heroes who are making a difference in their own way, so we can learn and do the same. This truth is the power behind this show, which is focused on business and community leaders that are leading by example to give back, fuel change, and create new opportunities for the Mid-South. I'm Jeremy Park, and this is The Spark. They are a 24/7 free, confidential, safe lifeline of hope for thousands of people here in the Mid-South. I'm here with the Executive Director of the Memphis Crisis Center, Mike Labonte, and give us a little historical perspective for forming the Memphis Crisis Center.
Yes, the Memphis Crisis Center actually was started in 1970 by a group of doctors. The two primary ones were Dr. Richard Farmer and Dr. Alan Battle. Dr. Farmer had a patient, he was mentally ill and he was hearing persecutory voices, he lost hope and he killed himself. And Dr. Farmer said this should not have happened. Working with Dr. Battle, as Dr. Battle likes to say, Dr. Farmer gave birth to the Crisis Center, he was the midwife. And together they birthed this wonderful organization, essentially volunteer-powered organization that provides a 24/7 lifeline to hope. It started as a suicide hotline, but now, of course, we deal with all sorts of crisis de-escalation and deal with other issues as well. We're really there for anyone in distress who needs to talk.
And as you alluded to, it covers a very wide spectrum. Give us an idea of just some of the different things that you're the center for.
Okay. Well, we administer the Call for Kids hotline. We administer the community's HIV care line. Through PLOW funding, we're so excited about the launch of the Elder Lifeline. We also are the local affiliate of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, the National Veterans Hotline, the National Spanish Hotline, and we do after-hours answering service for the Rape Crisis Center, which, as your viewers may know, is the premier resource for sexual assault victims. All their services are free, and we are the after-hours answering service for the Family Safety Center, which is essentially the premier resource for domestic violence, and again, all of their services are free.
So you cover a very wide spectrum right off. I mean, it's amazing how much you handle, and it's all driven by volunteers, which is amazing. So give us an idea of the stats. When you look at a typical year, how many calls are your team taking in?
Well, I have to tell you, over the past few years, we've seen this continual increase, and it has not yet plateaued. So, you know, when I was in the green room looking over the purpose book that you wrote, and I was reading our profile, it said, you know, they got 17,000 calls last year. Well, now last year, this past year, we got 20,500, and this year we're basically going to be about 24,000. Wow. And these calls deal with all sorts of issues. They deal with emotional problems, they deal with mental health, crime and family violence issues like domestic violence, like elder abuse, like child abuse, like sexual assault. They also deal with issues of substance abuse, addiction, grief and grieving, and they deal with issues that have to do with anything that might be a challenge in somebody's life that they're having trouble getting over. Crises are so subjective because what might be a crisis to you may not be a crisis to me and vice versa. So anything that exceeds our ability to cope. And so all of these things, these stressors that people have, it could even be poverty and material needs. As you know, a lot of people are struggling with the economy, and so what happens is that can exacerbate underlying mental health issues.
And so they're calling in, and that's where they're greeted by a cheerful volunteer who has empathetic listening and who is trained, and we'll talk about training as a big piece of this, but they're able to help them. And so talk about the volunteer, especially in terms of why that's so important that this is volunteer powered and what that looks like for a volunteer.
Well, for us, let me say this. The Crisis Center really is the volunteers because they're doing the service provision. I always say the volunteers are the backbone. They're what make it happen. I sometimes will tell volunteers, you are the Memphis Crisis Center because without you, we wouldn't have the service. What volunteers do is they take the time to compassionately engage callers when they call. They're also going to take the time to try to understand what the situation is that is going on with the caller. And the caller in this situation kind of sets the pace, you know. And then what happens is they've got to be willing to help. So there's some collaborative problem solving that goes in. And also there's linkage to longer term professional resources. What we do is essentially a sort of mental health first aid. I always tell people, you know, I'm a big guy, could have a heart attack right now, and I'm hoping Jeremy knows some CPR, but I don't want to see you standing over me with a scalpel. But I'm hoping that what you can do is keep me alive till you get me to the hospital where they can do the surgery. So that's kind of what our volunteers are doing. They're doing this mental health first aid piece, and then they do link people to those long-term resources that they're going to need.
And they go through about 40 hours of training, correct?
Yes, there's 40 hours of training, which includes everything from lecture portion to role play. There are some audiovisual components. There are large and small group simulations. And there's also what we call mentor time, which is basically, it's almost like on-the-job training where they come to the call center, they silently monitor calls, and they take calls under supervision. And so the process itself is about 40 hours. It's very flexible, though, so we're not going to hold you for 40 hours at one time. It's very flexible, and then they come in and they provide the service. The benefit to the community is that when they leave service with us, well, guess what? Now they're better equipped to deal with crisis. They know the community resources that are out there. It creates an additional layer of protection for the community, and that's one of the things I love about having a volunteer-powered service is the community comes in, provides the service, and then they go back out.
Right.
And there's an added benefit for everybody.
And I think as a volunteer, there's got to be nothing more rewarding than saying, I literally helped save someone's life today.
Yes. I will sometimes tell stories like this where volunteers have, because that's happened to me, where I'll be sitting in my office and a volunteer will come by and literally say to me, I saved a life today. And it just brings chills to me when they do that, because sometimes when you're on the administrative end, as you know, you start getting all caught up in the numbers and you kind of lose contact with the real human element of what we're doing. And we're out there essentially providing help, building hope, and saving lives every day. And we're doing it with volunteers. So when people call, you know, we care 24/7, and the people that are there are not getting paid. They are there because they care.
So talk about how we as the public can help. Obviously, being a volunteer, extremely important, extremely powerful. What are some other things? I know that you do advocacy out in the community as well, so you're constantly out there talking about the importance of what you do, but give us some other ways that we can help.
Yes. Well, one of the key things that I was going to say is when you mention the advocacy piece, we do go out there in the community. We do a lot of trainings, particularly with police officers, 911 dispatchers, church groups, community organizations, local nonprofits. Last year, we had about 80 free workshops and trained about 2,000 people. Every one of those is an opportunity to spread the word about the Memphis Crisis Center. If people want to help, there are a couple ways they can help. One is to get involved and volunteer, as you said. The other is, of course, we're a small agency, and I always say we're a small agency with a big impact. And one way to get involved is, you know, a financial gift is always, we appreciate that. Sure. And you can go to www.memphiscrisiscenter.org. The other way is to be aware of the Crisis Center and our work. We do have brochures and everything like that. If anybody's interested, they can go to the website, they can order, they can actually call me, and I would be happy to send them materials to distribute out. I always tell folks, you know, if people know the line's there, you know, people have to know your service exists before they access it. And if somebody is struggling, particularly if they're struggling with something that they feel like they can't overcome, I always say, your life is at least worth a phone call.
Absolutely.
So,
well, I greatly appreciate everything you're doing and for coming on the show and sharing it. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Take care.
They're focused on enhancing your business. I'm here with the CEO of Sandler Training by Capstone Sales Performance, Andrew Gieselman, and you're focused all on enhancing business, helping business leaders become more successful, especially in the sales and management side. But for starters, you have a very unique storyline in terms of your career, starting Sandler Training by Capstone Sales Performance. Give us a teaser.
So originally I was a client. I had a business. We did a lot of recruiting and staffing. And I got involved with Sandler as a client, and I learned some of the traits. And I'd never had coaching before. I'd never learned a process of how to do things differently before. And so when I got involved, I thought this is something that could be good for us, and it grew our company tremendously.
Nice.
It taught me things I didn't know. Really challenged the way that we ran the business, and we really kind of took off and grew from there. Opened up some different cities, and so we grew great. And then I decided, after that, for a while. I really got into where I thought, hey, it wasn't so much about the business as it was about, it wasn't so much about the business as much as it was about really helping the people in it. And so I was approached to come into Sandler and start to make that a lifestyle, coaching executives and learning how to do that and working with their people and working with individuals and helping them grow and get the most out of themselves that they could get.
And now that's
and
your
so
life.
That's
your
my
business.
life now. That's where we are.
Absolutely.
Awesome. It's really good.
One of the things that you do, it's very different in terms of the process, as you said, and it's things like pattern disrupt, and you go into the science of everything that you do. But give us a little bit of a teaser just on the different mentality of working with these sales managers, working in the sales kind of driven organization, but just the shift that you're taking them through.
Yeah. So the arena that we're in, and when we're working with the CEOs and working with the companies to help them to make progress, really our concept and our belief is that people need to stop selling. They need to stop pushing that product or those features and benefits and just go out and have conversations, adult to adult conversations. Right. And our belief is your job is really to help them figure out, are you a fit for what they do? And how can you get to that decision? Even if it's a no, just getting to the right decision. And if you help somebody make the right decision, they're going to respect you for it down the road one way or the other. If they make the decision to do business with you, great. If they make the decision that it's not the right fit, that's okay too, but that should be their decision. It shouldn't be forced on by sales. And so that's really where that concept comes from.
Give us one of your, I know you've got millions and you do a ton of public speaking, so give us one little teaser tip, if you will, on an example of what we're talking about here.
So one of the things that we do when we meet people, whether we're making a phone call to somebody we don't know, that's probably my favorite. So I'll call a CEO and I'll say, hey, Jeremy, it's Andrew. We don't know each other. I don't know if this call is going to make a lot of sense or not, but I'd like to take a half a minute, tell you a little bit about why I called, and then why don't you tell me if you think it really makes sense for us to have a conversation. And if it doesn't, I'm totally fine with that, because I want you to feel comfortable.
Right.
And if I give you an out, you're going to feel really comfortable. And even when we sit down and meet with people, we tell them the same thing. I don't have any assumption that we should do business. We have to figure that out together. And I want you to help me figure that out and help me figure that out for you. So if we can do that, we'll make progress together.
And one of the beautiful things is you're extremely philanthropic, so you do all of these seminars and workshops, and you allow nonprofits for free to come in, and you help them with their fundraising efforts and their storylines and kind of their brand, so to speak, to be more effective, especially on the fundraising side. Mm-hmm. Give us an idea of just why that's so important for you in terms of the philanthropic side of what you do.
That's a good question. So I got involved originally with giving back when our twins were born, Liam and Horner. They were born at 27 weeks, and they were tiny little bitty guys. And we spent, they were in the NICU at Baptist for about 3 months. And we didn't know for a while whether or not they were really going to make it home. And that was the hardest thing I'd ever been through in my life. That was a challenge. And understanding how they care for those children and what they need to do that, and how they need to get even the community involved with that, because the more love you can give these children, the better. It got me involved with Baptist to do some fundraising for the NICU, and after doing that, we were successful there, and we were able to get some new products in for them. I decided that I'm at a platform where what we teach is something that can help the community in Memphis.
Right.
It really is. I mean, if I can give back to nonprofits and help them go out and figure out how to get more people involved with their situation and with their needs, and they can do that consistently, then they'll grow, and they'll be able to make the community even better. And even recently, we've been we're trying to get into where we want to give back in a new way, which we're excited about, which is we want to start teaching young adults, so like seniors in high school and even in college. We want to be able to open up our doors and have sessions for them so that they can come and learn what we're teaching adults in the business world that they don't learn in school, so that they can understand really what is going to take place and what's going to happen, and how can they prepare themselves for the world they're going to be going into. And we believe that that'll help the children and help these young adults. We believe that it can help them, you know, find a better place to be in our city, and really how do they mold into that? Right. What's that really going to look like? So if we can teach them a lot of those traits, we believe that we'll be giving back, and I think that message spread through the young adults in Memphis potentially can help just to make the young adult mentality better in Memphis, stronger in Memphis.
Well, when you think about what you do, it's communication, it's relationships. There's really no, you know, when you talk about formal training for sales and leadership, you know, that to me is what makes it special. And so by being able to reach out to a younger audience, especially, you know, when you talk about the grade school level, that's a formative year. Sure. And so to help them mature along that process and give them those skill sets, immensely valuable, and obviously in college as well.
And that's the key. We believe there's a huge opportunity for that, because so much of what gets in the way of the young people is their own mindset, their own belief about what they're capable of. And so much of our work is developed around helping people build the mindset that actually creates the belief in them that they can be more than what they've been told their entire life. And if you can help somebody attach those and, you know, connect those dots, they'll start to believe that they're capable of doing things they haven't achieved. We want young people to go into life with those values and with that work, not have to come to us after they've been in it for 10 years and reprogram it. And so we believe that could be a big part of moving some things forward for Memphis. And
love it. Talk about where we can learn more about the work you're doing with Sandler Training by Capstone Sales Performance.
So we're on, we'll see, you can go to our website, right? That's csp.sandler.com. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure we have a Twitter account. I don't, you know,
a little bit of everything.
Yeah, because we're trying to be everywhere. Stephanie for us does a great job of managing all that, and she has the details. But you can get all that information on our website. It's all up there.
And you do a very good job of putting out all sorts of tips and tricks and thoughts. So it's great to follow you. Sure. Well, I greatly appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all the great work you're doing.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate giving back.
They're focused on helping adults and youth that face substance abuse problems and co-occurring mental health issues. I'm here with the Youth Program Director from Memphis Recovery Centers, Matt Douglas. For starters, give us some context. Give us a little of the history for Memphis Recovery Centers.
Okay. Memphis Recovery Center started back in the 70s. Was originally called the Memphis House, and it was opened up through some local churches that got together and saw a need for treatment of drugs and alcohol of those that living predominantly on the street in Memphis.
Gotcha. And so when you say a house, it's a residential program, so they stay there on campus. And give us an idea of just capacity. I know, is it 70 beds overall?
We've got 70 beds total through 2 adolescent and 1 adult program.
And then share with us a little bit about the program. So let's start actually on the intake side. So how are patients referred in, or how do they join Memphis Recovery Centers in terms of the programs?
So we've got, for the youth, we've got folks that come in as part of the Department of Children's Services. Okay. We've also got some families that will refer their kids there. For the adults, we've got folks that come through, sometimes through corrections are referred, and then through families or through their self, realizing that I've got something that needs to be addressed.
Right. So what does that first day look like when they come in and you sit down with them and you kind of walk them through what's to be expected and what it's going to look like overall? Share with us that.
Right. So when someone comes in, the very first thing that we want to do is really build engagement with them and make sure that they feel comfortable. You know, a lot of times institutions are kind of given an idea that it's a bad place, that it's a consequence, you know. And so we want them to understand that this is a safe place, this is a place to come get some good things, to get some tools and make some change, but we want them to be comfortable with where they are.
And then I know on your end you have everything from art therapy and music, and spiritual plays a piece of this as well. What are some of the things that make up a typical day?
Right. So in a given day, our kids are receiving individual therapy, group therapies that involve anger management, alcohol and drug education, art and music therapies, and really just getting a basis and understanding of the disease model and the disease of addiction.
And you also, too, for the youth program, you have a school, too, correct?
We do. We have what's called Transitions Learning Center, which is our in-house school. We have this school. It's actually very beneficial for the kids that we see, because a lot of them are behind in school because of truancy or because of the drug use that they're doing. And it gives them an opportunity to have a smaller student-to-teacher ratio. They're getting a little more attention academically, and it gives them an opportunity really to catch up a lot of times and get ahead.
Yeah, that's good. And so on your end, you have, when you look at the youth program especially, 2 times the success rate, which is really phenomenal when you look at obviously the success you're having with them, combining, but to me that's an amazing stat. And then you also too, you just got funding to increase, which is great, starting in July, so now you're right in the mix of that. Share with us in terms of just, you know, success stories. Give us one success story that stands out to you.
We had a young man that came through our youth program not so long ago that has did well academically, did well with his treatment, and has now positioned himself to where he's been accepted to University of Memphis. Nice,
very good. Always love that in terms of success story, going off to college and thriving. So, for parents that have children who, you know, they might have a suspicion, what are some of the things that you can tell them as tips to look out for, or what can they do to safeguard their children when you talk about substance abuse especially?
So as far as safeguarding, just a lot of communication, a lot of, you know, just staying in touch with your child, really knowing what they're doing, who they're hanging out with, you know, as far as some things to look for, symptoms maybe, change in behavior. You know, if your child has been doing well in school or is real involved with extracurricular activities, and now all of a sudden they're spending time with different kind of friends, or spending a lot of time retreating to their bedroom, and you don't really know what they're doing, you know, those are some signs of some kind of mental health or drug use.
Gotcha. And then on your end, I know you've got a big event in November. So talk about that event, but also too just ways that the public can get engaged with Memphis Recovery Centers.
So in November, we've got the 8th annual Memphis Recovery Centers 5K run. And the proceeds for that will actually go to Transitions Learning Center, our on-campus school. But that's always a good time. Get a T-shirt and
go out, support a worthwhile cause by getting a little exercise in, right?
That's right.
Nice. And so talk about just other volunteer. I know that on your end, when you talk about things like the art therapy, music, anybody who has that sort of skill set, opportunity to plug in.
Yeah, a lot of times we've got local colleges and schools, different organizations that will come help out with art therapy, doing different projects with us, or just coming and spending time with the kids.
And then what about outreach in terms of going out to schools, churches, just talking about very much like the tips. You know, these are the warning signs, these are some of the things to do, and especially working with families, because now that's a big deal is when the youth gets out of the program, empowering the family. So share with us just kind of about the awareness and education component of it.
Right. Well, one thing that we really put a lot of stock into in treatment is having the families involved. You know, we want them to understand that while we see addiction as a disease, it's something that affects the whole family and can be treated by the whole family. So we always have our parents and our families coming in to receive education on the disease model. We want them to understand what the kids are receiving so that they can kind of pick up with those things when the child discharges.
And then do you do outreach in terms of to churches and school groups and just groups that say, hey, this is a big deal for our society, we want to learn more?
Right.
awareness?
Yeah, we will go into schools or go into more religious institutions lately, just kind of speaking on what we do and educating the community.
And the last piece of this that I want to touch on is that when you talk about the work you do, it doesn't know any sort of racial boundary, socioeconomic boundary, religious boundary. It touches all walks of life, everyone of all skin colors. Share with us your experience in terms of just working with literally everyone of all different skin colors, religions, and socioeconomic levels.
Yeah, so as you say, the disease of addiction, it really knows no boundaries. And so we're serving kids and families, adults and families all over Tennessee. We've got folks of different, some of the kids come in with only the clothes on their back. They've been removed from the home. Some of them come in, pulling up in expensive cars and wearing expensive clothes because their parents have put them there. So yeah, we certainly see just a myriad of types of people.
And so where can we learn more about the work you're doing at Memphis Recovery Centers?
Okay, so we are on Twitter at Memphis Recovery Centers, and on the internet at memphisrecoverycenters.com, or you can just come on by.
Perfect. Greatly appreciate all the work you're doing here in the Mid-South and for coming on the show and sharing the great work.
Great, thank you.
Life is filled with challenges, and unfortunately, depression and drug and alcohol addiction impact individuals of all ages, ethnicities, socioeconomic levels, and religions. They have far-reaching effects personally and professionally for the health of our community, which is why we need to be aware of the work that organizations like the Memphis Crisis Center and Memphis Recovery Centers are doing to help. And when we talk about serving a cause or nonprofit, rolling up our sleeves and aligning our passions, experience, and skill sets to the work at hand will allow us to magnify the difference we can make, just like Angel Gieselman and Capstone Sales Performance. There will always be crises, but through love and support, there can also be recovery. So thank you for watching The Spark. To learn more about each of the guests and to interact with your stories of others leading by example, visit thesparktv.org. We look forward to seeing you next month, and we hope that you'll join with us in creating a spark for the Mid-South.
Just like having the right information is necessary to make solid hiring and lending decisions, being engaged in our community is important. DataFax is proud to support the positives and be a presenting sponsor of The Spark.
State Systems is focused on protecting life and property. As a local, privately owned company, our foundation was built on providing all businesses with complete fire and security protection and infrastructure cabling. State Systems is proud to be a part of the Mid-South community and a presenting sponsor of The Spark.
Lipscomb & Pitts Insurance has been serving the Mid-South since 1954. We've always focused on supporting our community and believed in promoting the positives, encouraging engagement, and leading by example. Lipscomb & Pitts is proud to be a presenting sponsor of The Spark.